welcome back to the Bandit Flight Simmer channel, and today we're back in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and as you can see here we're in a flashy livery of the Baron G58. Today's video we're going to go over some of the features of the latest Sim Update 7, and the G1000 NXi mod, which is now up to version 0.9.0. So we're going to do a quick tutorial flight from John Wayne County Airport, Santa Ana, California, up the coast to Van Nuys, and we'll cover off some of the new features in the simulator. If you're new to the channel, appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, and that way you'll see more content like this. I do some tutorial videos, mostly in GA aircraft, like the Baron here, and I also do a Around the World series in the Diamond DA62. And if you enjoyed today's content, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Really appreciate it. It helps other people find the channel. So without further ado, let's hop in the cockpit, and I have the airplane all started up, ready to go here, and then we'll just program the route up to Van Nuys. Before we load the route here, one of the features I'll go over in Sim Update 7 is the weather. And we're in Santa Ana, California here, and the weather here is pretty accurate to what the real world weather is. And they've modeled the weather to more accurately depict the current METAR data. And they have a METAR icon up here in your menu bar. And I don't know why there's no picture associated with, but you can choose airports near you. So let's choose John Wayne County as the nearest airport. And if I look at the weather, this is exactly what they have in the actual METAR, which is variable winds 3 knots, 6 miles, haze, overcast 1500, temperature 15, altimeter 3010. And if I just hit my barrel knob, that should update to that. So there we go. So the weather is using actual accurate METAR data, and it looks pretty accurate too. That looks about 6 miles and haze and overcast, cloudy skies. So it seems pretty accurate. So that's the first feature, and it seems to be a big improvement for Sim Update 7. So let's hop in the G1000 and get our flight program for our trip to Van Nuys. Okay, so for the flight plan here, all I've loaded in so far is Santa Ana and Van Nuys Airport. And our route today, we're going to be doing the Channel 3 departure, which takes us out over Catalina Island, and then we're going to be taking this airway up the coast, and this probably is just to keep us clear of all the busy areas of LAX, and you got Long Beach. There's all kinds of airports in here, so very busy traffic area, so this keeps us clear of that as we head up to Van Nuys. And then we end up at Fillmore VOR, which is an initial fix for the ILS coming into Van Nuys Airport. So let's load up that route really quick here, and we'll get up on our way. So this is just a review of the route data. So to activate the cursor, click and hold, and then it goes to our first waypoint here. Actually, I'm going to put in the departure first. So we'll select departures with the procedures, and we're going to be doing the Channel 3, and we're going to be doing the Catalina VOR. Select that, and that looks correct. We'll load that into the flight plan. So that takes us to our first waypoint, SCX, and now we'll add in our, so we'll go to menu, we'll load airway, and we're going to be doing the Victor 208, and that is going to be up to Victor Tango uniform, and that looks good. So we'll load that, and then from there we will go to the Victor 299, so we'll go menu, load airway, Victor 299, and that's going to take us to Fox India Mike. We'll load that, and then we'll just leave it at that for the route, and then from there we can load in an approach when we get a little closer. So I'll just close that out. I can range out and have a look at that. So that looks correct. It's taking us up to Santa Ana. From Santa Ana over Catalina Island, so that's the departure, and then the airway up to Victor Tango Uniform, and then the airway to Fox India Mike. So that all looks correct there. Okay, so we have that loaded, we're ready to go, and I'm just going to range out for that. Set it back correct. Okay, there we go. Back to the airport. Okay, so let's say our clearance is the channel 3 off of runway 20 right. Climb to 8,000 and we contact departure once airborne. So we'll set up our GPS, or sorry, set up our FMC. So we have GPS loaded. We'll put in 8,000 feet for our altitude. I do have a Class Echo input device that I usually use for this, but I'm trying to just use this as much as possible for demonstration purposes, because I know a lot of people don't have that. Okay, so we have 8,000 feet set, and I think now we're ready to go for the departure. I'll just go over the departure real quick here. So the departure is, we're going to depart off of 20 right, climb at heading 196, off the ISNA south course to 1 mile, then SLI radial 118 and turn left to heading 117, cross the SLI radial 132, then a right turn heading 202 to intercept the 264 radial into Santa Catalina. So that's the departure, and it's nice because that's a complicated departure to fly using regular nav aids. So it's nice that that's all pre-coded into the FMC for us, or the GPS for us. Okay, so we'll do a quick pre-takeoff check, and we will get up and on our way. Okay, pre-takeoff check. Just going to turn my pitot heat on, get my landing light on, strobe light on, and clear to the right, clear to the left. So we got our props are full, mixture is full, flaps are at approach or takeoff, altimeter is set, our GPS is set up, we got 8,000 feet. I'll hit toga, which is roll and pitch for the climb, and we got lots of gas, and temperatures and pressures are all looking good. Okay, so we'll release a parking brake, say we've been cleared by takeoff by tower, taxi out to the runway. Good IFR day here in Southern California. Foggy and hazy on the coast. Okay, so we're lined up. Apply full power. Temperatures and pressures are looking good. Airspeed's alive. 5 knots, rotate. Positive rate, gears up. Speed's good, flaps up. And through 400 feet, we'll engage the autopilot. Flight level change. Put it about 120 knots. And we'll select nav. We'll go to the GPS and just range out and follow this track. So the first thing you'll notice if I go to the GPS page, so we'll do a quick post-takeoff check here. So gear is up, flaps are up, temperatures and pressures are all looking good. We'll keep full power for the climb, and we got GPS active, flight level change 120 knots, and we're climbing away on our track here. So the first thing you'll notice is with the NXi, they have this track predictor here and a climb predictor, or commonly called the banana bar. And so we're climbing up to 8,000 feet. We're following our GPS track here nicely. Now these are nice indications, so this is kind of telling us when we're going to hit that 8,000 foot point. And you can see as the airplane turns, it shows a track prediction for about 60 seconds. So that's a new feature on the NXi. So we'll just hop outside here and just check, because we're getting above the weather here. Looks good. It's a typical California morning here with the weather. Low overcast, cloudy skies, but as soon as you break out of it, you get above it, which is nice. Okay, so to activate that new feature, all you need to do is go to your menu and you go to map settings, hit enter, and then you have the track vector and the altitude select arc, and you just turn those on if they're turned on, and you have different times you can predict it for. 60 seconds is the default, and I would just leave it there, because otherwise you get a really long track bar for this aircraft that's not really super fast. And also you don't get the turn feature, the turn prediction, if you go more than 60 seconds. So that's where you set those up. So you just cursor down to them, and you can turn them off or on. So off or on, I'll just leave it on. So that's where you set those features up, and they're nice, just handy features. And when you do a descent, a vertical speed descent, you can use it to kind of predict when you're going to get to your selected target altitude. So that's the first new feature on the NXi. So we'll just continue the departure here. It looks pretty good so far. And we'll get up to level altitude, and then I'll go over some of the other features on the NXi. So I'll see you when we level off, and we'll get all set up for the en route portion of our leg today. Okay, we're just coming up to our cruise altitude of 8,000 feet. Weather looks nice out here over the water. And we're just tracking inbound to Catalina Island. And we'll level off, and we can just say ATC is going to allow us to cut the corner here to Ventura. It's not too busy going up the coast here this morning. So if ATC cleared us direct to Ventura, flight plan route, maintain 8,000. So we're leveling off at 8,000. So I can go into the flight plan page here, and direct to still works really great. So you just highlight your flight plan here with the outer knob, and then you just scroll to, you get to the Ventura VOR, and you can select direct to. That shows up. Victor Tango uniform shows up here. And then we can go enter, and then we can activate, and then now it's taken us directly to Victor Tango uniform and flight plan route to Fillmore VOR. So that's going to save us a little bit of time by not having to go all the way out on this route here. And so we just close that up. And now that we've leveled off, let's set our power. So we'll go over using the engine features on the Baron here in the G1000. So I'll set my manifold pressure first. We're going to use 20, and then I'll bring my prop back, and good cruise setting is 2300. So I bring back to 2300. And that's pretty good. And then we can use the engine page here, and we can use the lean page to set our mixture. So our mixture is at full right now. And if I go to the assist for this, it's going to bring up a feature here that's going to allow us to set our mixture. So what we're going to do is we're going to start bringing back our mixture. And you'll see it's taking the highest temperature cylinder, and it's going to bring that up to peak. And once it hits peak, so I keep bringing the mixture back, and once they peak out, we're going to get a delta peak indication up here. So keep bringing it back. And there, now it's peaked out. So that is the peak, and we want to go set our mixture 25 rich of peak. So I'm going to stop there, and now I'm going to push it forward till we go 25 degrees rich of peak. So that's 25 on the right engine, pretty close on the left engine. So there is our, so you can see the peaks are there, and we pushed our mixture rich of peak. So that is the optimum cruise now. So we have manifold pressure, still a little bit high, I'll bring it back to 20. Prop RPM is pretty good, and I'll just adjust our peaks there slightly. If you change one thing, it affects everything. So there we go. So now we're 20, pretty close to 25 rich of peak. Our fuel flows, see 9.2, 9.6, so they're not exactly the same, but pretty good. And there we go, we got 158 indicated, 180 true, and we're cruising along nicely. So that's all set up, so our engines are leaned out, ready for the cruise portion of our flight. Well, we have some traffic showing up here. Let's hop outside, see if we can see it. There he is, going over ahead of us. Okay, so we have our aircraft all set up in the cruise. I'm just going to zoom out here, and we're heading up to Ventura, and then we're going to head to Fillmore for the approach. So our distance to go is 60 miles. It's going to take us 20 minutes. So while we're doing that, let's go over some of the other features of the NXi mod that have been added. We can take a look at those here in the cruise portion. Okay, we're back on our MFD here, nav display, and we'll go over some of the other features of the NXi mod here. It's nice having these standby airspeed, altitude, and attitude information indicators right beside us here. Just while I'm zooming in on the screen, just allows me to keep track of how things are going. Got some traffic off to the right here as we're coming up towards LAX. Okay, so the new features. So when you take the inner FMS knob control here, and when you rotate that, you get this page here where you have map, and this is where we can access our traffic map. So if I bring it up and I go to the inner knob, we can go to the traffic map, or we can go back to our navigation map. But you can also now, you have other pages that you can select. So I use the inner knob here, and I can select to waypoint information. And here I can now select different things like airport information, intersection information, NDB information, VOR information. And I can use this to find information on different things. And what I can do is I can go up and I can highlight and then press and open up the cursor to select those things. Now that's a nice feature, but right now I'm going to say stay away from it because it causes some bugs in the G1000. So they're aware of it, they're going to be putting out. So if you're still on 0.9.0, stay away from this page. As soon as I hit the cursor and then try to enter some information like a VOR and then get the information up here, and then when I get out of it, it messes up the whole map in terms of scaling and stuff like that. So I'm not going to use that feature today. I'm just going to say it's there, but stay away from it for now. But it is a nice feature in the future. If you want to find a VOR, you can just type in the VOR. It gives you all the information, the frequency. You can actually transfer the frequency right into your navcom page, and then it's got some nice features, but it does create some bugs within the system here. So we'll go to the next feature now. So we'll cursor over to, there's nothing on the aux page. Flight plan page, you have your active flight plan. And then the last page is where you get a lot of new features of the nearest function. So as soon as you select the nearest page, you have shows nearest airports, and it shows the information for all that. And then you can also cursor down and get different information. So we'll take the nearest airport as SLI. If I want to cursor to another airport, I can just select the outer knob and then cursor to. So if I want to look at the Fullerton Muni Airport, we can get the information on that. So we can see it's Fullerton Muni Airport, California, 90 feet elevation. We've got the different runways. So the main runway is 0624, hard surface. Now you see I got soft keys down here. If I want to go look at the other runways, I can hit runway. And now I can cursor through the different runways and see what's available. So that looks like that's the only runway available. Now if I want to look at the frequencies available, I can cursor to the different frequencies. So say I wanted to get the tower for that, I can, or if I want the localizer frequency for that. Now if I hit enter, so it's 1089, and I can hit enter, and you can see it's going to put it into my standby for nav1. If I want to put it in the standby for nav2, I can just bring it down to the active window nav2, and I can do the same thing and put it in the standby for nav2. Same thing with the COM. If I want to put in the flight service station or the ATIS, I can put that in the COM. So I select that. COM 1 window is right there active. I hit enter and it puts it in. And that's in my standby. Now if I want to make it active, I can just transfer it over. So there we go. I'll get rid of that. So that shows you all your frequency information. And then another thing, you can go down and you can see the approach information. So you can see what approaches are available. And from here, I can actually select the different approaches, see what's available. And I don't know if I can actually, no, it doesn't allow me to select the approaches from here. And if I go direct to, does it? No, I still got the direct to for the thing. So it just allows me to see which approaches are available. Oh, I can load approach from here, sorry, yeah. So if I needed to go to the nearest airport and I wanted to load an approach, I select the load approach. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want to change my flight plan. So once you're in that approach window, you can load an approach if you're diverting to an airport for some reason. So you pick the nearest airport, Fullerton was suitable airport. Now we're down in approach made, we can look at the two approaches, we can select which one's the best, and then we go through the whole load of airport, but that's going to take everything out of here, so I'm not going to do that. So that's the nearest features, but we can also look at other nearest features. So I'm going to get out of this, and if I go to the nearest features again, we can also use the inner knob, and we can also do it for VORs, intersections, VORs, and NDVs. So if I look at, if I want to look, if I'm going to the Fullerton VOR, and so I'm going to select my cursor, and I want to try and, it's FI, hopefully it's going to show up in this list, I don't know how far it goes, yeah, FIM here. So that's the Fullerton VOR. So now I can go to the frequency, and I can load that in. So that's giving me the information, and that's the position of the VOR, and I can now load that into my backup, and then I transfer that over, and now I've got the Fullerton VOR FIM loaded in my VOR. So lots of useful information with the nearest. So those are the new features. We already talked about the feature of loading in the track vector and the banana bar, so you can set those up. And then there's a couple other features that deal with approaches, and it's activating your VNAV descent early and vectors to final, and we'll talk about those when we get a little bit closer. So let's see how our track is going. So we got a ways to go here. So again, when I talk about the new features of the, stay away from the waypoint information pages for now, because there are some bugs in that. If they have a new version out by the time you see this video, then you can try them out, but Another feature that's handy too, I'll go back to the flight plan here, and you can also access that information by just cursoring over something that's already in your flight plan. So if we wanted to get some information about the Fillmore VOR here, we can just hit enter, and now we're right up to the information page for the VOR, and we can see the position. And again, we can go back and select our frequency, and we can cursor down so I can select it, but I'm not going to select it because it could screw up our map here. But you can get the information right from your flight plan for anything that's in your flight plan, and then you can put in a frequency, and then you can also do direct to and stuff like that. So very useful. I'll just go back to our flight plan here, and we'll keep tracking in. So when we get a little bit closer now, we'll set up for the approach into Van Nuys, and then we'll go over shooting the approach. Looks good, cruising along nicely here in LA. It's clear inland, clearing up on the coast a little bit. Oh, another thing, let's go take a look at the weather for Van Nuys while we're here. So if I go to the flight plan page, and we'll select cursor down to Van Nuys Airport, and we can look at the weather for Van Nuys. Winds 140 at 3/4 mile, 2,200 feet. We got 1/4 mile visibility, and we got, looks like a ceiling of vertical viz 1,400 to 2,200 feet. Fog, vertical viz, sorry, 200, temperature 11, dew point 11, 3009. So yeah, so it's not very good weather there. Let's take a look at the approach we're planning, and we're going to be planning the ILS. So if we look at the ILS into Van Nuys, the minimums are 668 feet and 2 miles, or 1.25 miles for with the full lights on. So that's not going to get us in. So we might have to divert to our alternate, which is going to be Santa Barbara. So we'll check that as we get a little bit closer, and we'll look at our option as we come into Van Nuys. So I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, cruising along nicely here at 8,000. So I think we'll get set up for the approach into Van Nuys. Now normally when the weather is like that, where the weather is below minimums, you wouldn't be able to shoot the approach. You usually have to have the weather at or above minimums to shoot the approach. But what we're going to do is we're going to shoot it anyway, and we're going to do the missed approach, and then we're going to go to our alternate of Santa Barbara if we don't get in. Because the weather could pick up as we're shooting the approach. The fog is burning off in the morning here. So we might as well load that up and give it a go and see how things work out. So we'll pop over to our D here, we'll select the approach, and we're going to do the ILS Yankee 16 right, and we're going to do it by the Fillmore transition. We will, might as well turn our minimums on here, and the minimums are 1461, so I'll put 1460. It's pretty high for an ILS because it is a steep glide path of 3.5 degrees, and you're coming in over the hills here, so that's why it's pretty high. Frequency is 1. Those all look good there. We'll just go over the approach. Missed approach is in there. It's another nice feature added into the NXi here, and we can load that approach. This approach is not approved for GPS. GPS guidance for monitoring only, load approach. So that's because we're doing an ILS. So we'll accept that. And now you'll see it has the approach loaded in from the Fillmore VOR here. So it goes in from Fillmore and straight in for 16, and then we have the missed approach procedure going back out to VTU here. So that's loaded in. So to save some time, let's say ATC cleared us direct Fillmore for the ILS 16. So one thing we can do, if we're cleared for the approach, we can activate the approach and that'll take us direct to Fillmore, or we can just go direct to Fillmore until they activate it. So let's do that for now. So if I select the flight plan page and we will cursor down to Fillmore and we'll go direct to, and we'll select enter and activate. And then now it's taking us direct Fillmore. But we haven't activated the approach yet, so it's going from Fillmore back to Van Nuys Airport. But once we activate the approach, it should get rid of this little portion here. So now we're just tracking inbound to Fillmore, VOR, and while we're doing that, let's just brief the approach. So the approach we're going to do is the ILS. The frequency is 11.3. Final approach course is 164. We're going to cross the FAF, which is at Furry here, at 3,800 feet, down to minimums of 1461, which is 668 feet above field elevation. Runway elevation is 793 feet. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be tracking from Fillmore on this RNAV track, and then we're going to intercept the ILS, and it should make the nice transition. Once we're by Fillmore, we can descend down to 6,000 feet. And then inbound, we can go down from Umber from 6,000 to 49, and then Furry 3,800. And you can see reason why it's a fairly high decision altitude for an ILS is because it's a 3.5 degree glide slope, and you have this high terrain here. So that's why we have this higher ILS. So likelihood if the weather stays the same, we're not going to get in. So in the Venomous Approach, what we're going to do is we're going to climb to 1,700 feet, then right turn to 4,600 feet on a heading 210, and then we're going to fly outbound on the SMO VOR 267 radio. So we're going to intercept that 267 radio out to Ventura VOR and hold as published. So that is the missed approach, and so we'll be looking at setting a final altitude, so climb to 17,000. Doesn't really say what the final altitude is. Oh, to 4,600 feet. So 4,600 feet will be our altitude for the missed approach. So that's all set up, ready to go, and what we'll do is just get clear for the approach. So when we get a little bit closer, we'll get clear for the approach, and then we'll start our VNAV. And you can see our top of descent point is right here for the approach. Okay, so I'll see you when we get a little bit closer to Fillmore, and we'll start the approach into Van Nuys. Okay, we're almost at Fillmore. We'll load the approach here, or activate the approach here shortly. So while we're waiting for that, how's everyone enjoying the Sim Update 7? So far it's worked pretty good for me. I haven't had any major glitches. Just that one NXi mod, that feature, that waypoint feature, has caused some glitches when I did a practice flight earlier. It messed up the map function, but apparently they're aware of it and they're going to fix it. But the weather has been pretty good, performance is pretty good. I haven't had any crash desktops. Haven't had a chance to try out the new aircraft yet. I just took them for a quick spin, but in depth I haven't had a good look at them. I'm really looking forward to flying the PC-6. F-18 should be a little bit of fun. I don't think I'm going to get the expansion pack for the Reno Air Races. That's kind of too arcadey for me. It might be fun for a few minutes or a few times, but in general I don't think I would use it very much, so I don't think I'll be getting that. Just let me know in the comments if you're going to be getting that. I'd be interested to know how many people are going to sign up for that. I think it's probably a great feature for the Xbox version for sure. Okay, so let's get this approach activated. So I'll go to the procedure page, and you'll see now there's another option, activate vectors to final. So where I would use that is if ATC was going to take us on vectors and I wanted to get rid of all that transition to the ILS. I just want the final approach course, so I would hit activate vectors to final. So you got to be careful that you don't hit that by mistake, because you're going to get rid of all these waypoints as we're transitioning from Fillmore to the ILS. and we need that for the approach. So we want to make sure that we cursor down to activate the approach. And we can take a look at this. If we have to go to our alternate Santa Barbara, we might be able to make use of that there. Okay, so I'll select activate the approach. I'll go enter, and now you can see all we have is our approach active. We're going to Fillmore, and then it's going to continue on for our transition to the ILS. So the approach is active. Now, the other feature they've added is VNAV feature. So if I select the flight plan here, and we are going, oh, just got it back out. I want to get back to my flight plan here. Oh, keep hitting the wrong knob here. That's one of the things that can get annoying about the flight sim. And that's why I like using my Class Echo, because I don't run into this issue. But okay, so select my knob here, and we're going direct Fillmore. Now you'll see a new, you can cancel VNAV. You have two soft keys pop up when you have activated a fix here on your flight plan. You can cancel VNAV, or you can go direct VNAV, which starts your VNAV, because we have our top of descent point up here for our 6,000 foot altitude. And you can see 6,000 feet is the altitude that we're next restriction altitude. So if I can select 6,000 feet and our top of descent's here, I can go VNAV direct. And what that's going to do, and so activate vertical direct to 6,000 feet for Zydom, and yep, that's what we want to activate, so we'll enter. And now you're going to see it's going to move our top of descent point right in front of us. So before our descent profile was based on a 3-degree glide path, now it's adjusted it, so it's going to be much more gradual descent until we get to that fix of Zydom. So if you need to start VNAV early and you want to keep using VNAV, so now I just activate VNAV. VNAV path is active, 6,000 feet, and you can see it's targeted a very gradual rate of descent. So we're going to do a nice gradual descent all the way up to Zydom, and then we'll start picking up our regular VNAV profile. So that's the other feature they activated, was activating your VNAV descent earlier. Now we still can't go back in and alter that VNAV profile, so we can't go in and manually change these, but at least we can start the VNAV descent sooner. Okay, so you can see we're coming up on VPath is active. We're starting our descent. So I'll bring back a little bit of power, keep our speed back, and we're going to do a nice gradual descent down to 6,000 feet in VNAV. So now we're going to follow that profile, a nice VNAV descent up to Zydom here, and then we'll continue and we'll track inbound for our ILS. We just checked that our ILS frequencies 11.3 are in the backups. They're ready to transition over. And so that's all ready to go. We got our minimum set, and now you can see we're doing a nice slow descent in VNAV to our next restricted altitude of 6,000 feet. So that's going to take us a while to get up to Zydom here, so I'll check in with you just as we're leveling off, and we'll continue our approach into Van Nuys. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, we just passed Fillmore VOR. We're inbound to the ILS. Weather looks great to the left, but you can still see there's lots of low cloud in the valleys to the right, and we're heading down in this area here, so I think we're going to take a look at the weather real quick. Now we're going to continue our descent here. We've been on a nice slow VNAV descent for Zydom here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to, since we're on the approach, I'm going to put in 3,800 feet as our final altitude for Furry, and then we'll continue to VNAV that down. So I'll set our altitude of 3,800 feet. We'll stay in VNAV, and we'll VNAV all the way down, step down altitudes to Furry, where we'll transition to the ILS. Let's just check the latest weather and see how things look. So we go to our flight plan, select our cursor, we'll go down to Van Nuys, and it's 1504, 1 mile. Picked up a little bit. Still, visibility is between 5,500 feet and 6,000 feet. And mist, overcast, 2,200 feet and 11 degrees, 3010. So we'll set our altimeter 3010 and we'll continue inbound. I don't think we're going to get in with the 660 foot minimums on the approach, but we'll give it a try. The weather fog is burning off, so maybe it'll pick up. If not, we'll have to do our published mist approach, and that takes us out this direction here. Okay, so I'll check in with you when we get a little closer to turning final here and transitioning to the ILS, and we'll see how the approach goes. Okay, we're level at 6,000 feet. Captured that, and we now path is armed again for our next descent point, and we're 6,000 feet to Umber as well. And then once we turn past Umber, we can go down to 4,900 feet to the next waypoint, Jeanette. So we're about to make the turn here. So let's start getting configuration for the approach here. I'm going to put my landing light on, bring our props back up to full, mixtures back up to full, and we'll bring the power back a little bit. So we're still targeted at 6,000 feet here as we make the turn. Making the turn on the final. Our feed path is active again, and we're down to 4,900 feet for our next altitude of Jeanette. And I'll bring the power back now because we're steeper descent, 3 degrees. And it's still looking pretty foggy in the valley here. So I'm anticipating we might not get in on this approach. This is an interesting approach when you do it in the daytime. You can't see the airport until you're over these hills here. So you're coming in on final and you can't even see the airport even if it's good weather. Because you gotta wait till you get past these hills here to be able to see it. So temperatures, pressures are good, landing light is on. Props are full, mixtures are full. Get our gear when we get a little bit closer. And approach flap, I'll keep the speed up for now. Well, this is starting to pick up there. We might get lucky and be able to get in. Okay, now we've transitioned to the ILS, so the loc is active. And we will continue down. We're past Jeanette here, so our next altitude is 3,800 feet, so we'll continue on the descent. Still doing V path. And it's going to level off at 3,800 feet or until it captures the glide slope. And we need to arm the approach to make the glide slope. So arm the approach, and then now glide slope is also available to be captured. So let's start configuring. So I'll get the gear down, bring the power back a little bit, get our speed back so we can select our approach flap. And it's still pretty hazy in there. Still see the still quite cloudy there. We couldn't see the airport right now anyway if it was visual, just until we're by these hills here. So speed's coming back. Okay, we'll select our approach flap. So gear is down, 3 green, approach flap selected. Gonna target about 110 knots initially. And we got our glide slope captured, localizers captured. Since that's captured, our missed approach altitude is 4,600 feet. I'll put that in, so that's ready to go. Let the speed start bleeding off. And now we're on the ILS portion of the approach. And the reason it's so steep is because it has to clear you over this terrain. So we'll just keep an eye on that. Slowly bringing the speed back. Yeah, definitely still cloudy in that area there. It's nice having this, you can see this terrain map here. We can range out on that as well. So we see there's no direct terrain ahead of us once we get by these hills here, but there's definitely some terrain left and right of us, so it's a very, very interesting approach. Speeds come back nicely. Got about 1,000 feet to go till our missed approach, so temperatures and pressures are good, gears down, flaps start approach. Got our missed approach altitude set, 4,600 feet. So we'll just continue inbound here. Still not thinking we're going to see anything. So with the published missed approach, we'll just hit toga, which will give us our pitch attitude, and then we'll start climbing. And then we'll keep tracking the GPS, and then I have to hit suspend in order for it to continue along the track for the missed approach. So speed's a little fast still. Just bring the power back a little bit more. Still looking outside, it's not looking very good. So we're just coming up to our minimums, a couple hundred feet to go. Definitely don't think we're going to be. This weather is much more accurate now. So there's our minimums. Nothing seen. Hit toga. Full power. Positive rate. Gears up. Speed's good. Flaps are up. And we're still tracking the localizer. I need to go to CDI for back to GPS. And I'm going to select nav. And we're going to do the missed approach. So gear is up, flaps are up, power is full, climbing up to 4,600 feet. And I'll just go flight level change. And we'll bring the speed back a little bit. 230. And I need to hit suspend so we continue tracking our missed approach, and you can see our missed approach is active here. So we are above 1,700 feet, right turn, 4,600 feet on a heading of 210, and that's looking good. So we're just going to pick up that 210 heading. We just overshot it slightly. Coming up to 4,600 feet. And I'm going to level off. I'll start bringing the power back a little bit. Set the manifold pressure. And I'll bring the props back to 2,300. I'll leave the mixture full though. Just what we're cruising to, just to drop the noise down a little bit. So the props are back. So post takeoff again was gears up, flaps are up, temperatures, pressures are all good. Turn our landing light off. We're 4,600 feet. We're on our track to pick up the radial to Victor Tango uniform. So we see our missed approach continues out here to intercept the inbound radial 267 to Victor Tango uniform, and then hold is published. So we have a hold all set up. So now we need to figure out with ATC what we're going to do in this case. So I don't think we're going to get into Van Nuys, so our alternate is Santa Barbara. And so we'll tell ATC we want to go to Santa Barbara for our alternate. And so ATC would come back with a clearance shear clear to Gaviato VOR, Golf Victor Oscar. Present position direct to climb and maintain 8,000 feet. And so what we're going to do then is we want to go to our direct to, and we need to go select Golf Victor Oscar. I'm using my class echo just to speed up the selection here. So I go enter, and so we're going to go direct to, and we're going to activate that, and we're going to climb up to 8,000 feet. So I'll go 8,000. Flight level change, our speed back to 120. Bring the power up to full. And there we are. We're off on our way direct to Golf Victor Oscar. And that's up towards Santa Barbara. And then we will set up for the approach into Santa Barbara. So that is 77 miles away. And then from there we will set up for the approach into Santa Barbara. So I'm going to level off at 8,000 feet, and then we will set the airplane up for our cruise. We'll set our mixture and prop speed and everything, set up our heading here. And then I'll go over what we're going to do for the approach into Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara. So I'll see you as we get closer to Golf Victor Oscar. Okay, we're heading up the coast to Santa Barbara now, direct to Gaviado VOR, Golf Victor Oscar. We're at 8,000 feet. I've leaned up the airplane, leaned up the mixture, everything is set up. We're back to our cruise settings, and true airspeed is good. Got a little bit of a crosswind. So a lot of airplanes have had to divert today because of the weather, so we're going to get a hold clearance here coming into Golf Victor Oscar, and that's a new feature on the NXi that we can deal with as well. So say ATC gives us a clearance, you're cleared direct Golf Victor Oscar, maintain 8,000, hold inbound on the 163. Hold inbound 163 degrees, maintain 8,000, expect further clearance 1830. Okay, so we're cruising inbound to Golf Victor Oscar for now. We got 18 minutes till we get there. So that means the current time is 17:53. We are going to be there about 18 minutes, so about quarter after, and so that's going to be 18:15. And he's given us expect for the clearance of 1830, so about a 15-minute hold, so not a big deal. Check our fuel. We got lots of fuel. We can do that in the engine page too. We can go to system and we can see we have 77.5 gallons remaining, so lots of fuel left on the airplane. So we'll go back, and so now we need to consider ourselves with the hold here. And another thing we need to do is clean up the flight plan, because we don't need any of this anymore. So an easy way to do that is to go to the menu page, and let's just delete this flight plan, because there's nothing in here that's any use anymore. So we can hit enter, and that clears out the flight plan. We're still going direct to Golf Victor Oscar, so that is still in the flight plan, so that's useful. Now we need to look at the hold. So this is the new feature in the direct to. So we go direct to, we're still direct Golf Victor Oscar, but now a new feature is we can cursor down and we can put in a hold. So we hit enter, and now we look at our hold, and we're to hold inbound 163. So I will dial that in. And that's inbound to Gulf Vista Oscar. Time is going to be 1 minute. Direction will be right-hand turns. It's standard. He didn't give us any other direction, so just standard turns, and we're going to maintain 8,000. So now I can cursor down to, so that's all correct. I can cursor down and select enter. So that's going to activate direct to Gulf Vista Oscar, as well as place that hold in the system. So if I look at the hold, if we range in here, and I'll just pan up to that. So we can see now our hold is generated up here at Gulf Vista Oscar. So we're gonna, you can see the hold pattern. So inbound 163, that looks about the right direction, and then right-hand turns, and you can see our entry is going to be Teardrop Entry. So we're going to come in over Gulf Vista Oscar, right-hand turn, join over, and then continue in the hole from there. So that's a nice feature that you can have, especially when you're doing diversions and you don't have anything in your flight plan, and you need to get that going initially until you can set up your flight plan. So now, once we have that set, so we got lots of time now. We got 15 minutes till we get there to set up our flight plan. So let's put something in here. So it's always good. I don't think we need to have an origin, but we definitely need a destination so we can load up an approach. Another option is we can go to the nearest airport. Maybe if Santa Barbara's in there, we can load an approach for there, but we might as well set up our flight plan with something that's useful. So if I activate my cursor, I'll put in an origin. I'll put in Van Nuys, just so we have something in there. So it is KVNY. Enter. And then we'll put Santa Barbara, which is KSBA. There's Santa Barbara. So now at least we have something in our flight plan. But we're still active with this direct to Gulf Vista Oscar, and that's going to stay there until we do something else, either load an approach or put in some kind of fix in here that we can go direct to. But basically we are going to continue along this until we activate something else, which is exactly what we want. So now we're going to keep flying up this track till we get to Gulf Vista Oscar. We're going to enter the hold. So I'm not going to load up the approach right now. Let's wait till we get closer to Gaviado VOR and enter the hold, and then we'll look at loading up an approach for Santa Barbara once we're in the hold, because we're going to have about 15 minutes in the hold. So we got lots of time, so I'll check back in with you when we get to the hold entry, and then we'll go from there, and then we'll load up an approach for Santa Barbara. See you in a few minutes. Wow, look at this scenery coming up the coast of California. Nice terrain detail, mountains look great. These clouds here in the foreground look awesome. A little bit textury up here, these clouds off in the distance, but these clouds here look great, like very nice scenery. So I'll go over the approach we're going to do into Santa Barbara. So we're headed up to Gulf Vista Oscar, which is the VOR just up here. And they gave us a hold inbound 163, maintain 8,000. And so that leads in nicely to this approach if we're going to do this full procedure approach, because they have a transition from Gulf Vista Oscar on a track 163 inbound the ILS. So that's probably why it's pretty standard that that's if they give you a hold that initial fix for an approach that they put it so that you're inbound, set up inbound for the track. You can see we're starting up here on the approach plate here. So this is the approach we're going to plan. So we're going to do the ILS 10.3, inbound 4075, cross the NAPS fix at 1800 feet down to decision altitude of 213 feet. So that's 200 feet above touchdown zone elevation, which is 13 feet. Venomous Approach, climb 700 feet, right turn to 4000 outbound, the Romeo Zulu Sierra VOR 185, and that's right there, so we'll do that, and that's up to 4,000 feet, hold is published. So the next thing we'll do is we'll take a look at the weather into Santa Barbara. So let's hop back in the cockpit here. So we're getting closer to the station here for our hold, and if we want to look at the weather, we can just go back to our flight plan, activate our cursor, and scroll down to SBA, and we look at the weather for SBA now. 1304, 6 miles in haze, overcast 800, 15 degrees, dew point is 12, 3011. So we'll set that on our altimeter. And that looks good. And so definitely we're going to get in with the weather there. Still a little hazy there. It's not VFR, but we're down to 200 and half mile viz for the approach. So those limits are pretty good. So we'll continue inbound for the hold. And you can see our hold a little bit better now. So we're going to do the teardrop entry, join the hold, and there's our hold pattern. And then we'll set up for the approach once we're in the hold. We'll load it up and we'll select the GVO transition. And then we want to activate it, we'll just load it. And then when we get clear of the approach, we can start the approach. So I'll do that once we're established in the hold. So I'll check in with you just as we're entering the hold and we'll set that up. See you in a few minutes. Okay, we're coming up to the hold at GVO here. And I just noticed the map bug is back. So if we scale the range here, you'll see that all the fixes scale out, but the map stays the same. It's not scaling with the rest of the data. I don't know what causes this bug to come in. I remember when I was playing with the waypoint info, it was causing that to happen. So they know about it. There's a fix in the works for it. So hopefully, if you're past this version, you should have a fix for it. Either way, all the other data is correct. It's just the map terrain is not scaling with the other data. You see, everything stays the same. It's kind of weird, but anyway, we can live with it for now. So we're coming in GVO. We're going to enter the hold. You see now that everything is gone except for the hold. So we're going to do the hold entry. Now I'm entering the hold. I might as well power back, save some fuel. So I'll bring it down to the bottom of the green here, about 17 manifold pressure. Brought our fuel burn down to 7.5, 7.6 gallons per hour, so that's nice fuel savings there. And we're going to enter the hold and go with that. So while we're doing that, let's load up the approach. So if I go to procedure, select approach, we're going to do the ILS 7, and we're going to do it via the Golf Victor Oscar, and we check all the waypoints. They're all correct, including the missed approach. And I might as well set my barrow of 213 feet, so I'll just set 220 here to round it up because we only set by 10. And then we will just load that approach. We're not going to activate it because we're still in the hold, so I'm just going to hit enter. It's not approved for GPS guidance for monitoring approach only, so we're going to accept that and load the approach because we're doing the ILS. So you can see, close the flight plan, we still have the hold is still entering the hold, and you can see we're going to stay in that. But if I go to flight plan, all the information's there. We're just active with the hold right now, so none of this is going to show up on our flight plan until we activate the approach. So if I go to procedure, We have the option to activate vectors to final, which I'll talk about later, or we can activate the approach. So now we're in the hold. We're expect further clearance time is 18:30. So anytime till then, either they're going to extend that or we're going to get clear for the approach. So if we got clear for the approach via Gulf Victor Oscar, all we need to do is activate the approach, and then we'll continue along the approach. So I'll clear that for now, and we will just continue with the hold until we get clear for the approach. So you can see the hold is just maintaining that there. There's nothing else active right now. And we'll just continue on that till we get clear for the approach. So I'll just let it transition to the hold here. Actually, let's just activate the approach and then see what happens here when everything shows up. And then I'll show you what hopefully the vectors to final option is. So if we go to procedure, and we will activate the approach, and it should take us now direct to Gulf Victor Oscar. So the hold has gone away, and you can see the whole approach is loaded in. But let's say ATC changed their mind and they want to take us on radar vectors. So they're going to take us on radar vectors downwind and radar vectors for the straight in ILS for the approach. So you can see we have our frequencies are loaded in there for the ILS. We're tracking to Gulf Victor Oscar, and say ATC said, okay, we need to take you on radar vectors for the approach now. So for radar vectors, turn right heading 265 and descend and maintain 4,000 feet. So I'm going to center off my heading bug, and I'm going to activate heading select, and I'm going to turn right to heading 265, and we will select 4,000 feet, and I will go flight level change, bring the power back, and start the descent. So now we're on radar vectors. So this is where you could activate vectors to final. So now that should get rid of all this and just give us a final a lineup for our final approach into the airport here. So let's activate that. So let's hit enter, and you can see now there's an issue where there's a bug with this where you might have to do it twice because everything disappears, and apparently they're working on that too. So all I go is back to procedure, do it again, and there you go. So this is what we need to see. So you see it's got rid of all those waypoints for the transition, and all it's given us now is the final two fixes and a straight in link for the approach. And then we're on vectors of final. Now the only other thing with that is it's not going to automatically transition to the frequencies here. So 110.3, so we need, it's not going to automatically switch over the CDI to localizer, so we need to do that manually ourselves. So we need to select CDI, our inbound course is 075 set, and we check that ISBA, which is the ILS, is active, so that is all set. So now we're 6,000 feet. Oh, sorry, I wanted to go down to 4,000 feet. So we'll continue flight level change, keep the descent going there, and we're on radar vectors now down to final. So we'll intercept that course to final. So he says turn left now, heading 27255. Continuing down to 4,000 feet. So radar, the nice thing about the radar vectors to final is it cleans up a lot of the stuff if you're doing it, we're doing a transition initially, but it still gives you just some info. Although you're not using this info to navigate, you're on radar vectors, and then we're going to put up our CDI to our ILS. It still gives you information. It shows you where Goyet is, which is the and NAPS is, which is the final approach course, final approach fix. So you have those two waypoints on the final approach here, just as reference to know where you are. So there's Goyet and NAPS. They're still in the flight plan, and they're nice handy references just to have. Okay, so ATC now says turn left to a heading of 165 and maintain 3,500 feet. So I'll put in our altitude of 3,500 and we'll heading selected to 165. So that's our base leg. Note the weather along the coast here, it's pretty nice. So we're coming in on approach. I'm going to put my landing light on. I'm going to bring my props back up to full, mixture back up to full. And we got gear and flaps to go when we're on final. Yeah, so we'll get another vector here. I'm just giving myself some vectors here. So we'll turn left heading 120. You can see we're a little far out, so we've lost our localizer. Maybe because of the terrain as well, but once we get a little closer, we should pick that back up again. And for some reason my altitude jumped up, so 3,500 feet. Tracking inbound, nice intercept here. So we're still in heading select, flight level change. Gonna level off at 3,500, and then I'm gonna intercept the approach from there. So as soon as we get a little bit closer, we should pick back up the localizer. And if we want, we can display our DME. So I'll put the options. DME on, and you can see that's not picking up either because we're still a bit too far out. So we'll turn left now, heading 100. We got our DME, so we're quite far out. So we got our identified our ILS frequency, ISBA. Now the loc is showing up. Glide slope. So we have no glide slope yet. We're still quite far out. We're going to level off at 3,500 feet. So ATC would say maintain heading 100. Upon interception, you cleared the ILS runway 7 in Santa Barbara. So now I can activate the approach. Well, it's not letting me activate it for some reason. Maybe because we haven't picked up a glide slope yet. So it's still showing no glide slope because we're quite far out. So I can activate nav, which is going to arm my localizer, so at least we can track the localizer in till we pick up the glide slope, because we're still quite far out. So localizer is armed, and we're going to track the localizer inbound, and once we see the no glide slope flag go away, we can arm the glide slope and then track the glide slope in. So I'll check in. We still got a little ways to go. I'll check in with you when we get a little bit closer and we see that go away, and then we'll arm the glide slope. Okay, we're tracking the localizer inbound. We got our heading select. You see the no glide slope has gone away, and we got the glide slope active there. So I should be able to arm the approach now. And you can see glide slope is armed, and then we're going to track that inbound. And if we look ahead, can see there is a little bit of weather, and that's what was in the METAR. You can also go up and look at the METAR up here too. So we get the METAR, we can select the nearest airport. This doesn't want to seem to show up Santa Barbara up here. Maybe it's not cycling to... Okay, so I'm assuming this stays with your original departure airport because it's not cycling to the nearest airports there. That's okay. So we intercepted glide slope. I'm going to get the gear down. Glide slope is armed, or active, sorry. Bring the power back, get our speed under control. And if we want to look at the weather again real quick, we can just go back to our flight plan. Cursor down to the end till we get to our weather. So the weather is 1304, haze 800, overcast 15 miles, 3011. So it hasn't changed much. So the speed is good. I'll get my approach flap in. And I'll add a little bit of power. Bring my speed, aim for about 110. So it's looking good. Just got to get through this little layer of cloud here, and we should be fine. Should be good viz. I think the modeling of the weather is much more accurate with this update for sure. The METARs are very accurate, and just based on what the METAR was saying, I think that's pretty much what we're going to see. So the missed approach. So we've I'm going to set the missed approach altitude now since we've captured the glide slope. The missed approach altitude is 4,000 feet. So that's ready to go. And you can see our missed approach is right here. Climbing straight ahead, a right turn to Golet, but the hold is published. Power back a little bit more, bring the speed back. So landing light, we'll get that on. Our landing light is on, sorry. Props are full, mixture is full, gear is down, flaps are at approach. Everything's looking good. And you can see, just for reference, it's nice to have these fixes. So now we know we just crossed naps, so we can cross naps with our glide path check altitude to 1,800 feet, so that looks good. So with the activate approach to vectors, it's nice to leave these fixes in here because they're good references for when you're shooting the approach. Okay, speed's looking good. Just coming up to the cloud layer. If I remember, it was about broken 800 feet, so we should be visual below that, and the viz was good. Oh, we got an aircraft on approach ahead of us here too. See him, he's below the cloud right now. Okay, so there's 1,000 feet and our missed approach altitude set. Everything looks good. Temperatures and pressures are good, gears down, flaps are at approach for now. A bit of power back on the speed. Okay, we should start seeing the runway here momentarily. It's 500 feet. And I'm just starting to make out the approach lights straight ahead. So it looks pretty good. definitely see the runway now. So we're going to be able to transition. So I'll get land flap. Speed's coming back. I want to maintain about a 95 knots or so. And just coming up on minimums. There's minimums, runway in sight, autopilot disengage. And touchdown. And welcome to Santa Barbara. And I'll just pull off at the first left turn here, clear the runway. Get our landing light off, PO heat off, taxi light on. I'll just move up a little further here, just to get clear. Shut our strobe light off, bring our flaps up. And we're clear the runway. And I'll just set the parking brake. So I think I'll just end the video here. Anyway, that was a great little trip in the Baron. Got to see a lot of new features in the NXi here. It's a great update. It's really coming along. The new features are really good. There's still a little bug, but they're aware of it, and they should see an update fairly soon to clear up that. But it's not a huge issue. It's still great functionality in the system. I think the overall sim update 7 has been a pretty good update. The weather is looking really good. I've had no real issues with any of the aircraft. It's been a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to trying out the F-18 and the Pilatus. Should be a lot of fun trying those out as well. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did enjoy it, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, take the time to subscribe to the channel, sign up for notifications, and then you'll see more content like this or our Flight Around the World series. Just a heads up too, for those of you who are members of the channel, thanks for coming along with me so far on this journey. It's been a lot of fun. I'm going to be doing a series. They announced, PMDG announced that they're going to have their 737 coming to the sim here fairly soon. And I think it's going to be coming to both the marketplace for the Xbox and for the PC, so it should be nice. And since I do have some experience flying a 737, I'm going to do some in-depth tutorials on that aircraft when it comes out. So if you'd like to see that in the future, make sure you sign up for the channel again and sign up for notifications. And as soon as that comes to the sim, I'll definitely be doing some tutorials on that. But I'll be sticking with my GA tutorials because I really enjoy flying the GA aircraft because it's something I don't get to do very often. So anyway, looking forward to that when it comes out. Should be a lot of fun. Hopefully it'll be out before Christmas. So again, thanks for joining me. Pleasure having you with me today's flight, and we'll see you next time on the Bandit Flight Simmer channel. Have a good day.